Where are we live into?
We're live right now on YouTube. Hello, everyone. This is OreAni 2019 fall season lineup. Welcome to OreAni. With us today we have Albert.
Oh,
What's his name? Big Vinny.
Hello there.
And we have Sean with a guest.
Hey,
yo.
Thank you all for joining us today. Yeah, let's have some fun. Let's go ahead and start with a few titles that right off the bat that Sean won't be with us for all that long, so we're going to get some of these. Starting with Beastars. I have no idea what this is. What is this?
It's everything. That's the answer. It's everything.
it's everything. Yeah, I'm having trouble watching anything else this season because anything else that isn't Beastars is worse than Beastars.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
Quit anime. Just watch Beastars. 7 years hand drawn, even though it's CG.
So Beastars is the next big Studio Orange show. So the last thing they did was Land of the Lustrous. This is their new thing. It's been hyped for quite a while. Like Land of the Lustrous is based on this really strange manga that, you look at that and you're like, how are they going to do this in CG? But, they pull it off because they're good at it. I'll say that unlike a lot of other things this season, this actually has like a very coherent art design that like makes all the CG work. Like the colors, the backgrounds, the characters, like everything just looks great.
Well, it kind of like has to, right? Because the manga is so styling. It's like everything is just some big, dark, curly cutes. It's like style for days. So they had to really commit, unless, otherwise anything that they did was going to look bland, even if it was decent animation at a normal TV quality. Like this had to be a cut above. Otherwise, it'd be just too bland and not fit the spirit of the show.
Yeah, like CG has a lot to prove, and like adapting that manga has a lot to prove too. And they don't copy the manga style because that's basically impossible to do in CG. Instead, they make their own style that looks really nice. So Beastars is
it's sex. It's like sex and violence and carnal desire in a college setting. I don't know, man. Like the way that I see it, like the timeline sort of says, like as Zootopia was dropping its first advertisements, this manga kicked off. And to me, it looks like the manga artist saw an advertisement for Zootopia, was like, I'm a not so secret furry. I'm going crazy in my head right now. I got to just create something. So I'm going to take this advertisement that I saw and just run wild with my imagination. And that's exactly what it is. It's a college setting. There's carnivores and herbivores going to this.
Is it college or is it high school?
No, it's college.
Okay.
Because high school. Because the college stuff happens after they graduate.
Wait, this is high school?
School.
Yeah, I figured it was a high school. So they got like.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought it was college.
They got like after school clubs, but yeah, they don't. You never see them in like a normal classroom, right?
Right. No, and there's dorms too, right? Because the bunny rabbits living in the dorms.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just like, oh, they're at like some art university or something.
Yeah, the show is weird because we've seen 3 episodes of it, and they haven't shown you the world outside of the school at all. It's almost like the school is some sort of magical purgatory.
Well, anyways, so it starts off with like a murder. A herbivore is possibly, like the show wants you to believe, was murdered. I'm not positive he's murdered, but sure. By a carnivore who is a silhouette, a not so convincing that we don't know who he is silhouette, but they went for it. And then the show kind of kicks off following around this bad postured, a little bit Urkel-y wolf, who seems like rather meek, and he meets a bunny rabbit who first he tries to eat, and then she just takes all her clothes off in front of him, and like looks down at his jock, and like by that point, I think your brain is basically fried. Like you're either in or you're out of the show. I'm way in.
You're
So,
Yeah.
skipping over quite a bit in between that.
Well, I mean, like, right? Spoiler alert.
so
You know,
from what I see, this is going to be on Netflix. It's appearing in Japan on Netflix right now. So are we
Yeah.
going to have to wait till next season to watch any of this?
Probably.
unless you have the internet, I guess.
Legally, yeah, you have to wait.
Yeah, that's the situation. So the funny thing is, Beastars got me thinking about Zootopia, and I started rewatching that, and it's kind of like a neat counterpoint to Zootopia, because the premise of Zootopia is like these animals renounce their savage ways and join modern society, and by embracing modernism, they can become the best versions of themselves. They can do anything. You know, it's almost like the American dream. You can do anything, you can be anything. If you embrace the dream, if you embrace modernism, where Beastars is coming at it from the opposite angle. It's saying that, like, to have this bizarre, like, modern society where predators and prey are living together in harmony, they have to give up the things that make them what they are, and they have to, like, take part in this charade of modernism. So the main character, what's his name?
Lego She.
Lego She the wolf. He's like very, very powerful, but he has to be as meek as possible so that the power doesn't consume him, or that he doesn't go out of control, or that he's not seen as a beast. Where there's another character, he is the beast star.
Luis.
Louis senpai. He's like this insanely charismatic, charming deer man, and he has to, like, prove that he's strong and tough and he can stand up to the carnivores, and he sort of has to play this role because that's what modern society kind of expects of him. So he needs to be this role model for all the other herbivores.
So he goes like over the top. I think in the first episode, because he's in the drama club, he has to replace the actor that was murdered, and he's practicing with this new actor who's a goat. The goat misses a line in the script, so he takes the script and shoves it down the goat's throat. It's like everybody in this show is amped to 11 at all times, and not in this typical anime screamo way. Like, nobody's scream. I don't think there's been hardly any screaming in the show.
Yeah, it gets shouty sometimes, but yeah, it's not
Screamo.
It's not screamo.
But everybody's amped to 11, and if they're not amped to 11, they're literally reaching for the dial to turn it.
Yeah, it feels like at any moment this, like, charade of animal modern society is about to crumble. So there's like this really interesting tension, like, throughout the show at all times.
And I think that the show is absolutely, if you are an anime veteran in any way, shape, or form, you'll find it unpredictable to the last. Like, I never know what's going to happen in this show.
Yeah, it feels like one of those shows where it's like not following any particular template. It feels like anything could happen. I was surprised to learn that the manga is actually a shonen manga, because, you know, with that, just watching the anime, I thought it'd be like a seinen josei kind of thing, because the topics seem a little too, like, weird and
Sexy.
Yeah, sexy, extreme, ambiguous.
Everybody looks like they are about to fuck in this show in every scene. The way that they look at each other, it's like everybody has "fuck you" eyes. They're gonna fuck you right now eyes.
So
at all.
It's tagged as a slice of life. Would you agree with it?
I mean,
a slice of whose life?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what? I don't know about that.
No, it is a drama. At least it is a drama.
Yeah, it is tagged drama, psychological, but it also has slice of life. So I was like,
I would say psychological makes a lot more sense than.
No, there's not a healing anime. It's more of a damaging anime.
Yeah, it's a damaging. Oh, what else gets now and then, here and there? That's a damaging anime.
Very damaging.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that show.
What is it? Sokuni Iruba?
I don't know. It's one of those shows where I never bothered to learn the Japanese name.
I think it's
Too long and
Sokuni
complicated.
Iru something. now and then here, and oh my god, I'm traumatized. What is that anime where they keep on dying over? Is that When They Cry that people always go back to as like the most damaging anime?
It's Higurashi.
Higurashi, yeah, When They Cry.
I don't know. School days. What's more? So when you said when they die over and over, I was thinking of like ReZero or something.
No, like this, like they literally hit the JRPG visual novel like reset button in the show every couple of episodes.
Yeah, that's that show. Yeah,
maybe it's the one
Higurashi.
where what? Yeah, okay.
All right. Also, I believe you guys wanted to talk about another title that what was it called? It's also on Netflix, right? Vinland?
No, that's Amazon.
It's on-
Vinland.
Oh, that's on Amazon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Vinland Saga.
So I've actually talked about Vinland a bunch of times, so we can just sort of update on the last few episodes. We're not even up to date. We were just about to catch up. We're like 3 episodes behind.
Yeah.
So the last episode we saw was the first episode of the new season or cour or whatever you want to call it.
It has a better intro.
It's got a new intro.
There's no screaming in it. There's no like
yeah, the first
like heavy
intro is-
metal screaming in it. Thank God.
So the show sort of continues to prove to me that it has really good balance. You know, like every time I think the show could like fall apart or like do something uninteresting, that like it changes something and it adds something that it needs, right? So like the main character Torfin is kind of a one-note guy, and you know he's out to get revenge for his dad, and he's just always smoldering with rage.
He's very smoldery, and he Naruto runs.
He does. Naruto.
He's the Naruto running Viking.
I guess it's hard to run cool
He's
when
very
you got twin
emo.
daggers.
He's like over the course of 14 episodes, he's gone from like Full Metal Alchemist childhood hair to like smoldering emo bangs, lots of eyeshadow hair, working on his pouty lip, grumpy mouth.
So just when I was about to get tired of that character, then they put on him this prince.
Yeah, the wussy prince.
Yeah, the wussy prince that is like caving under the pressure of being the next king.
And he's Christian. He's the Christian king of all the Vikings. And he's also secretly Bishi, so he wears like a serious helmet so that his Bishiness and like I don't know, he's got bowl cut bangs. They don't come out and like ruin his reputation. And he's got like a really rapey uncle who's like protecting him and has a pointy head and is also Christian. And like now they've just thrust this guy on Torfin and they don't get along at all.
Yeah, like the leader of the Band of the Hawk or whatever, you know, the mercenary group that Torfin is tagging along with said like, I hate dealing with this prince guy. Torfin, you deal with him. Now they have this like fun dynamic because they couldn't be more opposite each other.
Yeah, it was an exciting development for sure.
Yeah, so like once again the show it does exactly the thing that it has to do at exactly the right time.
I think that there were like a couple episodes before this happened, they had a feast moment where they were like all in the feasting hall and they started to show that character's relationship to the Vikings that he's going to eventually rule. And it was a really good setup too, like showing how rowdy the feast was and how Christian this poor wimp is.
Yeah, so the show is starting to draw the camera back and sort of show the political contexts of this world that Torfin inhabits. So that's also like another thing that the show needed to do, because prior to that it was very zeroed in on like what this band of Vikings were doing, and it was getting a little too one note.
And there was an episode with a forest fire that looked extremely cheap all the way through. It was the low point of the series. I think it's episode 11.
Yeah, but
it's
then
a
like
really low point.
One episode after that, I think it recovers. So you know, it's like we're waiting for the show to get wit studioed, and so you see glimpses of it. You're like, oh, maybe this is the cliff, but no,
It's bounced back.
it's bounced back. Yeah.
What episode are they on?
Yeah, that's good to hear.
We've watched through 13, and I think there's 14, 15, 16.
Yeah, there's 3. We don't like to watch more than or less than like 3 or 4 episodes at a time because it's just not enough time to explore like a early 9th, 10th century castle drama. Like you just need a couple hours of it. It's like
Yeah, if you're used to like epic films and epic TV shows, like Game of Thrones or The Last Kingdom or that kind of stuff, they always run like an hour. So it's really hard to watch one of these and not have like a full hour on your plate.
sometimes an hour is just not enough with The Last Kingdom too. Like it's,
Well, sometimes it's more than enough.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yep.
Last Kingdom, you get it all at once because of Netflix, right? You're just like, you eat it. It's so good.
Yeah, if you like Vinland Saga, you should also watch The Last Kingdom.
You should definitely
It's
watch
very
The
fun.
Last Kingdom. It's so good.
So I think that's going to do it for Vinland, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. For the next title, I kind of want to pick this title just because of what you were talking about for the Beastars. Have you guys heard of that Hatage Kemono Michi?
Nope.
So this
It's
is
the isekai.
yeah, this is one of those isekais, except for, since you were talking about those anamorphic people in the show.
Furries. Say it. Furries.
These ones have some characters that are similar to that. They call them demon beast or demi-humans, and this guy who happens to be a pro wrestler who goes by the masked animal thing, and he gets transferred into the or summoned into the new world to become the new hero. And it just so happens that his greatest wish after wrestling, which he was about to do his final match, is to open up a pet shop. So now he's in this new world and he's told to kill all these animal demon beasts, and he just gets upset and German suplexes the princess and escapes and decides that he's gonna open up a pet shop in this new world where everyone hates all the animal demons, and it's the stupidest thing you'll ever see. This guy who's like this wolf man, that's the first thing he sees. He runs, jumps, pins him down, just starts massaging his body like a dog, trying to get him to become happy because he just loves animals, and it's so extreme. It's everyone's off put by whenever he starts talking about animals, and it's just so crazy.
I would watch an episode of this just because it seems like we just ran the trailer here. I would watch an episode of this.
Oh my god! The first episode was entertaining and kind of fun, just because of how extreme it was. But as you go on, it stays that way and doesn't introduce really too many new things. So it's starting to get a little bit boring, in a sense. But they have introduced some new characters, but now or less, right now, he's trying to open up a pet shop and teach people how great animals are, but he's just so infatuated with the animals, he gets lost, he forgets about things, they need to go on quest to get money because he needs to be able to feed the animals, but he wants to be with the animals. It's just crazy. And then of course he's a wrestler, so he's got this extreme body, and whenever he goes out, he just uses a bunch of wrestling moves and just kicks everyone's butt. That pits down animals, or they even start calling him the animal killer, and he just beats everyone up for calling him that. Or whenever people are like, I'm going to go kill this demon animal, he just beats them up. It's like, how dare you try to kill these animals? They're precious and everything. So it's strange. Albert, it seems you're watching it. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, if you watch the first episode, you get the gist of it. So it's how much more um, of this comedy can they keep going? That's like the key to whether you can enjoy it or not. If you watch the first episode, you'll get it. And so the author of this light novel, of course, it's isekai, so it's based on a light novel. The author is the same author as Konosuba. So if you like the kind of humor that's in Konosuba, it's similar, right? There's a lot of gag moments, and the Tank just talked about his name as the Beast Killer. So he gets it when he tames like these three-headed dogs, right? They're magical beasts, and the guys are watching this, and some of the other adventurers, they're like, "Oh my God, he's tamed them! He's like a lady killer, but it's Beast. We'll call him the Beast Killer." Makes no goddamn sense, but whatever. He hasn't killed anything, right? But he's so charismatic and knows how to handle it, so they call him the Beast Killer. So I mean, it's the animation's pretty good. Unlike Beastars, the entire population of demi-humans run the entire gamut of the furry meme, right? Where you have that, the meme I'm talking about, where you have like four or five panels, and one is like basically, a cute girl with little cat ears and a tail, and then it goes all the way to the almost completely animal-like, almost like that Cats movie preview, right? And it says, "You sick bastard." So it runs the entire gamut. So there's the Wolfman that was mentioned, is like a completely wolf-headed, right, and furry, while his companion Shigure, who is a wolf girl, only has like a wolf tail and wolf ears. So, but the main character Genzo is completely into all of them, disturbingly. So, take your pick. He's pan animal sexual, I guess. He doesn't care how furry you are. He's into you all the way.
Well,
That's
weird.
our joke.
I watched an episode.
That Cats movie sounds terrible, and I'm also like morbidly curious.
Oh, I have to see it. I have to. Well, Cats is the best musical ever because nothing happens. It's about nothing. There's literally no story.
I've
Like
never watched it.
All these
so.
cats like get together in an alley and then they sing a bunch of songs, and some of them wear clothes and some of them don't, and like there's no rhyme or reason. They're having like a cat jamboree, and that's the whole thing. There's nothing to it. I gotta see it. It's gonna be so.
Morbid curiosity indeed. The isekai, I think, is pretty popular. I've heard of, the animation quality. At least the episode 3 is good. The humor's fine, and yeah, it's a isekai. Have we reached peak isekai? I don't think so.
I saw this interesting chart that showed like number of isekai manga and number of isekai TV anime, and the manga is still on this like upward curve, and it always seems like the TV anime is like trying to catch up to it. So maybe we haven't reached peak isekai TV shows yet.
Peak Sekai.
Peak isekai.
Did they have a line for light novels? Because a lot of the manga are adaptation of the light novels, and now that Kadokawa is not accepting new, isekai-based light novels, right, for their contests, wondering if at least on the light novel end, it's hit peak isekai, because they're basically making all kinds of shit up, which includes like, oh, my new life in the isekai as a pizzeria, right? or
like pro wrestler isekai is already pretty nth generation.
I want to see it. I want to see an isekai where the guy wakes up as a like an Islamic terrorist, and like, no, yeah, I want to see.
Yeah, there's those like my new life as a general in the Demon King's army or something like that. So, where he's isekai and he's one of the villains of the isekai.
So there is this isekai you can light novel you can find on Google Books. It's called like I've turned into. He goes to another world and he's actually reborn as a vending machine. So it's his life and the story of him being a vending machine and how he has to try to communicate with people, but he can only have the preset voices that a vending machine has. And then to level up, he just levels up what he can dispense, and it's just so weird.
Does he have adventures? Does he like hobble around as a vending machine or?
No, he does go on adventures though, because this girl finds him and then starts carrying him on her back, and then starts traveling with him. And he uses like his little LCD screen for emotes to express, emotions and stuff. And
Well, I'd
Yeah.
watch it.
Anime's really evolved, man. Dude, it's the future. I'm so
I
glad
don't
I'm
know.
an anime fan.
If I try to explain that to my family, they're gonna try to commit me.
No, I'm proud of it. I feel like we really have something to show for like 30 years of anime watching.
All right, I think we're gonna go. But before we go, what's the best isekai show on the air right now?
Best isekai? Actually, surprisingly, the one I've taken the most interest is that adolescent book one. I think that's what it was called.
The what?
Yeah, I know what he's talking about.
Let me see what the English title is.
It's Ascendance of a Bookworm.
Ascendance of a Bookworm. Sorry.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's Tank's vote.
For me, it's
Yeah, the so there's a problem, I think, with that show, which is the pacing and the animation is kind of slow and kind of subpar, like especially crowd scenes. Um, I read the manga, like the first arc of this story, which I think currently has 3 arcs. It looks like they might adapt the first arc and maybe a little bit of the second, but um, the manga was much more enjoyable because you could read it at your own pace. There's a lot more explanations. The anime can be pretty, but I just feel like they kind of made it on the cheap. So
What's the highest budget one that's out right now, in your opinion? Like Grimgar level or ReZero level high quality animation?
that's a good question. Let me go take a look. See what I'm actually.
It's kind of exactly what I expected when he was playing. And it's like huge on her back and she's just walking around.
Mm-hmm.
This little waif of a girl. The only thing that's balancing this giant thing on her back is her really oversized tits that would actually like give her scoliosis or something in real life.
I don't really have a good isekai recommendation this time around. I mean, there are several that I'm watching, but they're all problematic in some way.
Yeah, so
I
there's
mean,
there's no real showpiece isekai on the air right now.
I guess it would have to be Fate, right? That's like the junkie.
Oh,
Hiroshima
Fate
thing.
Babylonia, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the best looking thing.
so let's go ahead and talk about that right now. We'll just switch over to the Fate.
I'll stick around for that, or
Yeah,
Yeah, before you guys go, I would recommend No Guns Life.
No Guns Life.
It's a pretty interesting take
Yeah.
on the hard-boiled detective when your main character is a modified cyborg with a gun for his head.
yeah, I did see a little bit of that. It's weird.
I think it's Madhouse that's doing it, so animation-wise, it's actually pretty interesting. So you might want to give a look at it, and at least for the 3 episodes out right now, it's pretty good.
Okay, we might take a look at it. Did you want to stick around for Babylonia? or-
Yeah, let's stick around for it.
Okay.
So, Freight Grand Order. What's the full thing? Zettai Maju Sensei or Sensen Babylonia.
Fate Grand Order, please spend $50 so that you can get a 30 jewel pull on getting our new characters
Oh,
for your Babylonia.
no, you got to spend $1,000 to get the character you want.
I mean,
9,000. 9,000.
don't you love Fate? You should spend more. Don't you love it? You don't love it. You're not spending.
I started spending money when I was playing that game, and then I was like, "Uh-oh, I gotta stop."
I've been playing that game since day one, and I've never spent a dime, and I have tons of 5-star characters. They can't make me spend.
So you're cheating?
No, all the campaigns right.
Rank
So,
EX luck.
Day one is a long time.
so I actually had no idea what this was going to be about. When I first started watching it, I actually watched it yesterday, and
But it's like the 5th singularity in the game, so it's like level 5 or 6 or something like that.
yeah,
I think
so
it's 7.
Is it?
yeah, they said the
Yeah.
seventh
It's the
singularity.
one after London, right?
No, it's the one up the Camelot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Camelot is after London.
Right.
That's right. Okay.
So would you say you had to play the game to understand what's going on? Because
Oh, I don't think that will help you. I don't think that those two things are related. I don't think anybody who plays the game, I like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the wrong kind of like 36-year-old ass man, but I don't think anybody who plays that game actually reads through all the story beats of that game. Because they really all say the same thing, right? It's like, oh, how could you? I thought we were friends, but now that you're the master of the master's domain, blah 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 blah. I just like skip. Let me fight.
so
At this
Ac-
point,
so what is
I don't know. I actually read through, so.
you actually read through it.
Yeah, actually, up to that point, I actually read through. It's the second season. There's a pseudo singularity is the one I started skipping the lines. But,
Yeah, I
up
skipped
until that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've sort of already been through all these beats, and really, I just want to like get my gear for the day. Like sometimes I'll read if there's like, if there's a servant that is like 2019 new waifu, I might read like when they show up. But you know, if you're that old 2015 wife, dude, we've had a divorce. I'm done with you. Just go. Stop talking. Skip.
Gotta kick out those old hags.
Yeah, they are old. I don't want those old hags. How dare you?
Good thing you're not paying much for alimony.
I know, right? No, seriously, it's what, $100 a pull, $50 a pull? Some alimony. Better not pull one of those old hags on my free spin. No.
Uh,
Have you been watching the show?
I've only watched the first 2 episodes, or first episode 0 and episode 1.
0 through 1.
Yeah. I assume that I will continue watching it. We were saying that like in the first one, it was just all talking, and it was all like fate, lunar spear, fucking psychobabble lore points after a cool action scene. Like there's a cool opening scene, and then episode 0 is all talking after that with rainbow colored waifus and like labs. Well, you know, like everybody in that show has like gradient spectral illumination on them from the light sources, so everybody's a little rainbowy in that first episode, right? Because that's the only way that these like clear and obvious futuristic office spaces and like control rooms are going to be interesting if they have to just sit there and mouth flap at you for 30 minutes. That's episode 0 for me.
Doesn't episode 0 kind of jump around the episode they released prior to that, another Fate Grand Order movie or OVA that was released on Crunchyroll?
That I don't know about.
It kind of gives a very quick synopsis about whatever happened up until that point. You know, it just briefly touches upon singularity, but not really in the detail. It's more like a picture of the background that associates with all the other singularity. Then it just jumps straight into it. If anything, it actually gives a more of a background story towards the MASH and the doctor that would turn to evil in the very first one. But
Yeah, they show him really briefly, right? Being evil and like laughing evilly or something.
Yeah, how he goes about and kill Olga. Olga is just keep getting killed over and over.
Yeah, I do remember that. I mean, the mash like started out like jumping around, like dodging a bunch of lasers, and that was pretty cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, like episode one, that had some like that had Itano Circus in it, that had some full moving background, like everybody's running at the camera type action in it. Like it looked good until they were not fighting, and then it did not look good. It looked weird.
The
It
water.
had,
The water
yeah,
looked
like
good.
I don't know if it looked good. I think it looked out of place. Like they put like this really like amazing DreamWorks water over these like PlayStation One tourist backgrounds. Like come to Jamaica, man. Zelda Caribbean. Like it was just like, whoa, these textures look weird. These characters look weird on it. Yeah.
Would you say that's like a pretty? That's an approximation of what the game looks like when you actually play it,
No.
with the characters on their backgrounds and stuff.
No, because it's all art. It's all drawn
Okay.
in the game. At least most of it.
I mean, in terms of just like general design, aesthetics, colors, does it kind of look like a gotcha game made real, or what? Okay.
No.
Maybe for some. but-
Show Sean a play session.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in that weird Halloween thing though. Like I can't.
I mean, I've seen it played at one point, and it just looked kind of like slapped together in a way that a lot of gotcha games look.
Yes, it does look that.
I mean, it's very. It's yeah. It's not ideal, but Dragalia Lost doesn't have Mega Man in it yet, so I got to play something until that event happens, right? So it's been Fate Grand Order the last couple of weeks. So
Mega Man.
yeah, he's coming to that Nintendo. Dragalia Lost their gotcha game RPG. Isometric view, run around the dungeon.
I didn't know Nintendo had one of those.
They do. They do. It's really hideous. It's like Secret of Mana, Children of Mana, the PS1 game, like garish colors. I think right now, like the loading screen is like a town made out of birthday cakes or something. It's absolutely the most Akiba, insidious, garish thing.
Okay.
But it's gonna have Mega Man in it, and since I like all of these bad mobile RPGs, I gotta play from day one, just so like within the first month I can collect all my gotcha, freebies, and then leave it for 6 months, and then they'll be like, oh, you came back, look, here's all this free shit again, and I don't know, it's really curbed my like Amazon Prime impulse buying, because I just get all these free. It's true.
So, Big Vinny, since you've read the story, is the story following along with the anime? Or...
Yeah, very much so. It's beginning is as slow as expected, and I figure it's by middle of the season it's gonna kicking up notch. I think the first episode everybody's making fun of how Ishita crushed the master's face, and there's like memes about the squashed face, which is kind of a fun moment on otherwise pretty dull episode. But
You mean episode 1?
yeah, episode 1 is when the Ishita crash landed from the sky, falls out of nowhere, and crush master's
she's
face.
Bootleg Rin, right?
Yeah, she's bootleg Rin, played by Rin's voice actress too, right? But she crushed her. Whose face did she? I don't remember a face.
No, Ishita lands on master, whichever.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Yep.
There's a meme about the whole squashed face of that. But I also it starts to look more cohesive around episode 3 and 4. And I think episode 4 is when the Jaguar Man, the Taiga, in that cat suit shows up, start making fun of things. And I think there's also this like a bit of a joke about how her screen time's been cut back on the next episode because she just spends too much time moving around aimlessly, which is kind of in a way true. But I think it's also neat that it does show up in anime, whereas in actual game you kind of have to leave it to the imagination as to how hyper she is.
Yeah. Has Gilgamesh shown up yet? Like, has he
Yeah,
spoke? Has he had any
yeah,
speaking lines?
he
Yeah.
does. Yeah, in episode very end of episode 2, little bit of episode 3, and little bit of episode 4, he does have a
All right.
speaking part.
Let me make it more specific then. Has
hmm
he started speaking down to anybody yet? Like, has he called anybody a dog? Has he called?
Mongrel.
Like they can't, he won't touch them, or that they're filthy. They called him Inu Domo or something like that.
Episode 3 and a little bit on episode 4.
But
Right, that's
it's not as bad as his usual attitude you would see.
Oh,
He's
no, I
toned
want
it
it
down,
first.
but it's not like really bad. Like this guy's
I
like
mean, that explains it at the very beginning of the episode 1, because he has a class change. So
Right.
he's him, but he's not really the him that we associate as an archer, the arrogant prick that he is. He has some of that, but in caster class, he's much more level-headed, and even
Oh,
in
I
the
don't like that.
game,
I
he is a
Gilgamesh is my lifelong husbando. Like, I need him to be as mean as possible.
yeah. Well, I couldn't get either of the class, so I'm a little salty about that.
Oh, I got the day one 5-star Gilgamesh, the original Archer Gilgamesh. I got him twice.
Oh,
They've never re-released him either.
no.
Oh yeah,
I
I've got that rare bird.
I think at the beginning of the year, the New Year's paid gacha, they have it, but he's crammed up among the 30 other 5-star.
Yeah, you have like almost no
It's-
chance of getting him.
Exactly.
It
I
makes it's good for me because it makes my account so valuable. Sell that
yes.
shit on eBay.
Yeah, that's where somebody actually literally dropped down $9,000 to recruit him.
Just for a Gilgamesh. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
$9,000.
Yep.
Sell your account
Yep.
right now.
I can't, dude. It's my husbando, dude. I need him.
I think
How
top
could
rec.
you say such a thing.
Like $18,000 could be your husband.
I don't know if I get the camera to
Oh.
focus, but I'm trying to show him.
Push it like pretty close.
Yeah, I
up.
see him. Yep, I see him. Lucky you. I got John Alter, so I'll live with it.
I've got Ishtar too. I've got
My
so
friends is a fan of a lean face, but I'm okay without it. So.
I've got Musashi too. Like I've done so well on this damn game.
Mm.
But anyways, we should probably hop off, right?
You know, the only time I felt bad for Gilgamesh is when he got wasted in Fate Butterfly.
Oh, when he got his leg, yeah,
It's like you tried to make me kneel before you, but
he got so wasted.
yeah, he got.
anticlimactic.
Oh, it's coming in the next one. We'll get it. I don't know. Seeing Gilgamesh just get punked out so hard in his fullest attitude with his shonen hair. He doesn't even have his upswing. Like he's got his shonen hair on, and his like peppy little jacket. He's like, got my little jacket and my shonen hair, and then boom, he's just wasted by this bitch. She wasn't even awake for it either. It was brilliant.
All right, we're gonna go.
All right. Take
Alright.
care.
Take care.
Yeah, see you later.
So, is there anything else we need to add to Fate Grand Order?
I think they picked the right series, chapter to add into the TV animation because it is pretty lengthy, and it's slowly building up just like the series in the game itself. I think episode 5 is when they're gonna start kicking it in the high notch because looks like Gilgamesh is gonna have more roles in it. So I'm looking forward to it, and after that, going through the very weird mismatch of episode 1, things kind of settle down a lot. So I expect that it's gotta be pretty smooth sailing from here on.
And I think
It's a 12 or 24.
I think to 24.
Really? Okay.
the thing I find interesting about using the game version rather than or the what do you call it, the cell phone game, is that
Mhm.
there's a lot of battles that happen within the game. So, and people love the battles in Fate Grand or in Fate series. So they should be able to
Well,
pop out a lot of them.
And the waifus.
yes,
Yeah.
Eresh Gal, waiting for the blondie to show up.
So let's move on to the next title, which we kind of talked a lot about, or a little bit about as well, which is The Ascendance of a Bookworm. And Albert, you said it was a little slow.
Uh, um, I mean, if you just watch the first episode, you would not pick it up, right? So, in the basic premise, it's an isekai. You know, this bookworm is about to get her perfect job of becoming a librarian, except she dies in the hail of books during an earthquake. It crushes her, and as she's dying, she's like, "Oh, I wish I will be reborn in the next world, and there will be plenty of books there too." And of course, unlike all other isekai, she is reborn into this little sickly girl, and the world is kind of medievalish, I guess. And there is no books. Like books are still handwritten, hand copied, and there are no books. There's, and she herself, you know, as a sickly girl, doesn't even know the letters and numbers yet.
What is she, like
So
5 years old in this show? Around
she's
there?
at 5. Yep, because her sister is 7 or 6.5. So that's a refreshing change of pace from all these. I get all these cheating abilities, and I'm the strongest warrior in the world, or I'm the quickest thief in the world. You know, none of that, right? She's just starting from 0 or less than 0, and
Kryptonite.
she is, yeah, and she is determined to you know, if she can't get the books that she wants, well, she's going to make them. So this is kind of like a more realistic Dr. Stone version of science experiments, because a lot of her experiments just keep failing one after another, and that's going to be coming up. But in the first episode, none of that basically happens, right? It's just kind of trying to figure out where she is in this world. And then, you know, she's living in, her mother is a seamstress and her father is a town guard. At least he's a town guard captain, but you know, they're not, they live in a tenement house. It's the kind where there is no plumbing, so you dump your, you know, chamber pot outside the window, that kind of world,
So,
right?
when I saw that,
Hmm.
I was like, what in the. And then I realized that they live on the fifth story and they're
Huh?
dumping it out the window. That's gotta be nasty.
Huh? Yeah.
That's
But
why you
that,
stick to the wall side.
so I mean, the scene where they actually finally go out to the town, the city, right? It's it's kind of sparsely populated, and a lot of background people aren't doing anything except just being drawn, right? They're static while mom and daughter moves along. So all of that just makes it seem like the animation is kind of cheap. The characters are well modeled, and I haven't seen a, at least in the first 3 episodes, anything that's gone off model. And you know, they intersperse it with mine. The little girl is called Mine. I don't know why they, some of the, I think Crunchyroll is um, subtitling her as Main, but she's technically Mine, and she has her internal monologues in this cute chibi form, right? So it's a huge difference in that case from the manga, but yeah, it looks kind of cheap. Like the animation overall looks kind of cheap. The story in the first episode is slow. It's slow as hell, and then they kind of hint at, you know, things happening, because at the very beginning of the episode, you know, they jump to like the end of this story arc, where she is being mind investigated through magic by some sort of magician or priest, right? So you kind of get the hint of what's happening, and then you get the backstory. And I don't really think that was a very good way to dump the exposition. But um, yeah, so if you were just watching that, you would say no, thank you. I personally would recommend just reading the manga wherever you can find it. But if anime is the only thing you can get, then if you're looking for isekai where the protagonist, the main character, is in a shitty situation with shitty circumstances and has to make the best of it through actual work and effort, then you might want to check this out.
So this is actually a light novel on J Novel website.
It's very popular as a light novel. It's got, like I mentioned earlier, it's got 2 full arcs, and I think it's currently on the 3rd arc. And the manga is still on the 2nd arc. The first arc was 7 volumes in the tankobon, the manga book volumes. And it's kind of going slow, so I'm not sure how many episodes this is slate. I thought this was just going to be 12 episodes and covering the first arc, but I'm not so sure because the pacing seems a little weird, and I don't actually know what happens in the 2nd arc fully because the manga is still in the middle of it. So there's a lot of caveats, but again, it's something different than I come into this world with the greatest body, with the greatest magic ability, with the greatest weapon. None of that. So that's why I really enjoy reading the manga. The anime, I'm still not so sure, but I am watching it.
So one thing I did forget about was that there is something similar to magic in this world. It wasn't until
there's magic.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it because of how it's not shown throughout the holes.
It's not high magic. It's what we would call low magic in RPG terms.
Yeah.
Right?
So like,
there's a couple of magical things that will happen. I think in episode 3 they go get the fruit of the, I forget, whatever. It's a tree. It's an ice tree that grows only from when there's fresh snow and before noon. It's like a gremlin, right? And you have to go harvest it. But that is definitely magical. And there will be other magical things, especially because at the very first episode you saw that there's this mind reading device thing. But
yeah,
it's low
I
magic.
completely forgot about that. Because have you seen the 4th episode or the newest one?
No, not yet.
Okay, because that's the episode that actually reminded me of magic, and I was like, oh yeah, there's. I'm not going to spoil it, but to me, I don't know. It's just I'm watching it because it's very different. It's like you said, it's not something that's on par with all the other isekai where there's either it's really big in comedy or it's the overpowered characters. It's more down to earth, and it's interesting to see how she hypes herself up so much and then fails. And she also has the memories of her previous self, I guess you may want to call it. So it's interesting, but she doesn't have that much experience because she's only 5 years old, so it's not even really helping her too much, but her adapting and trying to introduce some new stuff, but of course she's not that experienced in all that other stuff as well because she was mostly just into books. So she has all that book knowledge, but she doesn't have the actual physical knowledge to go through with it. So
yes, but also no, because she knows like craft work. She was an indoor kid, right?
yeah.
So she read books, but she also did crafts and like crochet. She remembers, and basket weaving and all the indoor stuff. So that all comes in handy, but it does puzzle her new family. Like, how does this 5-year-old can come up with all this new stuff or new designs or techniques or whatever? So it is using your prior life's knowledge, unlike where it doesn't play any part in most other um, isekai shows.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends.
All right. Let's go ahead and go on to the next title I'm kind of interested in a little bit, which is High Score Girl 2.
Do you not watch the first series?
I actually did. My friends kept on bugging me, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it. And I'm like, then one day I was like, fine. And I started watching it. I was like, hey, I actually like this. This is really good. And I got almost to the end. I think I was like 2 episodes away from the end. So I haven't finished it. So do I need to go back and finish it before I start watching this new one? Or.
Yeah, you should.
Mm-hmm.
And also, is this out or is it going to be released like next season because it was a Netflix title?
Next season, I'm sure.
Yeah, next season. So episode 1 of this season just aired in Japan. Um, and they were also airing the 3 OVAs. So you could, I believe they aired that in sequence so that you could, kind of get into the swing of things after the first season. So the first season, I think, was 12 episodes. And then there are 3 OVA episodes to kind of continue the story. And then it got greenlit for season 2. And season 2 is only, I think, 9 episodes or 10 episodes. So that's why they're running. They first showed the OVAs as episodes, and then the actual season 2 is going in. So I think it's if you watched High Score Girl 1, it's a must watch because you know how good the show is. If you haven't, then you could go binge it on Netflix in the US. It is CG animated, so it does take a little getting used to, but if it's all about set in the 70s and 80s when all these arcade games were the high point of gaming, and it's all about retro games. I guess we would call it retro games. And when the initial Nintendos came out and Sega, so if you enjoy that with actual drama and the yeah, it's just nostalgia. It's a nostalgia train, but I actually really enjoy it because of the characters. Also, the one of the main girls, Ono, probably in the running for least dialogue.
Very true.
She's up there with another character from the last season? Wait, who am I thinking of? Someone else that basically doesn't speak. Anyway,
Wasn't a short series with like 3 girls doing kind of a high school girl thing, but there's really no actual spoken words. They just kind of grunt here and there.
no, that's not the one I was thinking about.
Oh.
But
There's
anyway,
the girl with the.
I'd still recommend it. Definitely must watch
All right.
when it comes out.
Yeah, I'll probably try to catch up,
Mm-hmm.
watch the rest of it, and then next season when it comes out, I'll watch it. Let my friends know it's coming out because they loved it. They just kept on bugging me. Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it. And for some reason, I just never saw the appeal with the banners they kept on showing, so I never really knew what it was about. All they said it was about video gaming and
Arcade game, Street Fighter 2. If you know the game, then it's kind of a sells by itself, I'll say.
yeah, but that's all they told me though. So I never really saw the appeal into it until I actually picked it up and I was like, okay, this is way more than just these two playing video games with each other.
I guess it's kind of a, I mean, I guess this is the part where it kind of gets lost in translation because the arcade scene really differs in Japan and here. I think like Pac-Man was like a at the peak of the arcade boom, and after that it's kind of going to the whole downward cycle ever since then. But whereas in Japan, arcade scene was pretty much well on alive well into the late 90s when they had the whole fighting game start to take over with Street Fighter 2, and that kind of focuses on that time of the settings where the main character and the girl pretty much gets looped right into it. I just like the fact that towards the very beginning of the first season where they talked about how arcades stores is really for all the juvenile delinquents that go to, and it cracks me up very much so because I remember that's pretty much how all our parents are preaching us is not to go because that's where all the seedy kids go there and smoking and what have you. So to me, it's easier to understand and relate to. I could see why some viewers here would have a hard time understanding it, especially if they didn't grow up playing some of those games at the arcade scene.
Yeah. I
But
think
the later parts of the series kind of transitions into console games like PlayStations and Sega Saturn. I think those are the parts where it'll be easier for people to relate
yeah.
to.
So, from what I remember in my childhood, only when there was like a fair that would travel around, some of the fairs had these arcade areas, and that was the only place you could really go to play a bunch of arcades. Was at a fair, or we also had one place that I think it was called Borderlands, where you paid a fee and you got to go in and play all the arcades for nickels.
Ah,
But those all closed down now. But it's a fun show. I'm definitely going to watch it.
I think there's a little bit of a tidbits about how those characters end up looking the way it is. There's a blog about it as to how it came out to be. I think JC Stab was supposed to be working on in studio mostly on that series, and they kind of stretched that too thin. So they actually ended up outsourcing the whole series to some other company to do it, and they ended up using the whole CG sequence to draw the character and let them move around instead of actually using the hand-drawn style. And somehow that kind of quote on kind of fell into some strange charming point because it's kind of a little awkward, but then both of the characters are pretty awkward to begin with. So I think it just worked out to their strength instead of being a weakness that what some people would have expected to be.
Hmm.
So I think they're sticking to that. I mean, there's really no going back at this point.
Let's go to the next title, and I'm going to stay with the gaming theme, but go more. Looks like more analog. I haven't watched this yet. The After School Dice Club.
Ah,
So what's this about? Like I see it on Funimation when I was watching some other shows, but I was like, I don't know if I want to pick this up yet. Is it worth it or?
I think it's pretty fun. Very charming series. It's about high school girls playing those board games, or what they call analog games, but it's actually focuses on German board game, which none of which I have so. And some of the games they play actually looks quite interesting enough for me to give it a shot, assuming I can find one. Yeah, it's your prototypical school light drama, slice of life. People trying to throw it out there, but mostly it's about the class friends gathering together and play board games, all different kind of board game, and just building friendship from it. So it's one of those park your worries somewhere, just distract yourself watching something, pleasant series kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. So if if you actually like board games, this is definitely the show for you. It is about cute girls doing cute things, and in this case, is playing board games. So if you're if you play a lot of board games, these are games mostly out of Europe, so they're called Euro games. They say Germany, and that is true, but there are other games in there too. Um, and so far there's been three. I think there's four episodes now, but there are three episodes that I watched, and all three had actual games in it. One of which I've actually played, um, and it is very well explained. It does take a little getting to, like in the first episode, there's a lot of setup for these characters and how they interact. So you don't get to the gaming part until the late in the second half of the show, but they're accurately portrayed. And if I think the explanation is good enough that if you picked up the game, you could play it. So all the games that were depicted in the show are real games, and I don't know if they're just going to do one game per episode, or they might on some occasions do two games per episode, kind of like that's what I was expecting it to do. But so far it's one game per episode, so that's only three games, and there's so much more to go through. So
So, what kind of comedy is this? 'Cause it has a tag of comedy, so I was just wondering, like,
I mean, it's kind of that slice of life girls comedy, right? So it's not anything over the top.
so nothing like
The way
defrag.
no misunderstandings, right? Because they at first they see their class rep go into this shop late at night, and they're like, "Oh, it's kind of a weird shop. I wonder what she's doing." And they think she's, maybe doing something illicit, and that it's a situational misunderstanding. So, but I wouldn't really call it a sitcom. Any, what do you
I
think?
just like the fact that it's taking place in Kyoto for once instead of Tokyo, Akiba over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is set in Kyoto, and one of the characters has a strong Kyoto accent. Although I think the voice actor herself, is not from Kyoto.
So it's nothing like defrag.
Defrag. I didn't watch that.
Oh, that was another one
Me
about
neither.
gaming, but it was super super crazy. All right. What other titles do we have here? You talked a little bit about No Gun, No Life, right?
It's No Guns Life.
No Guns,
There's
Life.
no second no.
No Guns, No Life. Sorry.
That's No Game, No Life.
That's the isekai
Very
right there.
different.
I'm sorry. Here, I was looking for the title. No Guns. I keep on wanting to say No Life. No Guns, Life. I watched this, but my full attention wasn't on it, so I missed a lot of little parts.
Yeah, so this essentially is, a hard-boiled detective uh, story. That's what the model is. And in this world, there are cyborgs, essentially modified humans called extended, and the main character has a gun, a revolver for his head, and other modifications, but he doesn't remember how he came to be that. And the revolver heads were known to be some sort of special ops team, right? That they fought in some great war that's hinted at, but not really explained. And a giant corporation, the Burans, um, kind of is a megacore that runs much of the city. And so this, our main character, he is just trying to, use his skills that he has, which apparently is, being a private detective, and he becomes involved with a weird case, and that's how it starts off. So the setting is really interesting. The fact that you don't have, an actual face to emote, right? They do have like moments of comedic. It's not really a chibi character, but they do the stylized looking head when he has comedic moments. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward detective type story as he's trying to a solve a question that he has, and b not get killed in the process, right? So that's the setup. And I think the it's I mentioned that it's by Studio Madhouse, so the animation is pretty nice, good action scenes. It is sci-fi. It's, I think it's not shonen. I think it's more seinen because there's some pretty dark stuff going on with human experimentation and involving orphans, possible orphans, and all that. So yeah, I'm so far enjoying the first 3 episodes, and it's not there's a complete story arc because each episode doesn't exactly wrap up and end. There is a continuation or things that will happen. There's that feeling that the story is incomplete. So watchable, and so far I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I
Can hear you.
think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I forgot. The style of the show actually reminded me a lot of Black Lagoon, and I think that was done by Madhouse as well.
I don't know if Black Lagoon was. I could look it up, I suppose.
But the style of the characters and everything kind of reminded me a lot of that.
Let's see. I can certainly see the anime television series by Madhouse. There you go.
Ah.
So kind of depends on who the character designers are, which is not listed in the wiki page, so I can't tell. But yeah, there's that kind of aesthetic, right? So it's kind of a dark and gritty world, and there's definitely not good things happening. But yeah, if you like that kind of story, if you like some action, mystery, detective stuff, definitely check it out.
All right. It was interesting, but I don't know. I watched it when I was in the middle of doing other stuff, and just nothing really pulled my attention hard to make me want to actually sit there and give it all my attention. I do want to learn more about what's going on with how he became the way he is, and that's got my interest in it so far, but it may be a show I might drop. I don't know. But talking about, if we forgot this show, we were going through all these different isekais and we forgot about this one.
Shincho Yusha.
You may.
Watashi no yoku whatever. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life?
Then we are going
yeah.
to hit the isekai.
So now this one follows the typical, isekai by a truck. Sure.
Literally.
So I'm surprised we kind of forgot about talk about this, but that's probably the only thing that makes me think about it. That was just the whole truck thing. But yeah, this girl, she's a high school student, I believe. The president. She's always seen as genius. She has above average grades. She's always like the top. And because of that and the pressure of always being the top, when she gets isekai'd, she doesn't want to be up there anymore. She just wants to have an average life so that she can live peacefully. And I guess God misinterprets that and decides that rather than giving her an overpowered ability, to give her the average power ability or average power within the world, and rather than doing the average of a human, he does it of the average of the overall power of the world. So the strongest dragon there, she's like half of that or something like that. I think they kind of explain it that way. So she's actually very OP'd, and she hates it. And the show's just her trying to live her normal life, but all these situations just get out of hand where she has to or she mistakenly uses her power to a certain extent and just goes overboard. And she also has a lot of references to things in her world that aren't in theirs. So whenever she makes a comment, people are like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Oh, I forgot about that." And she's starting to share some things that she didn't really expect to share, which is kind of a. She actually in the newest episode was like, "Oh no, have I introduced Chinibilism to these people by telling them these stories?" And she's also making like her little nendroids and stuff when she's bored. So she has a lot of these weird things that she's introducing to the culture in that world. But overall, it's just her joining right now in the first arc. Actually, it's just her joining a school and training in the school with her roommates to graduate within this training academy for students. And
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hmm.
yeah, um, it's somewhat entertaining. Um, I don't know. Like, how are you guys on it? Do you guys think you'll keep on following it, or is it one of those? It's too generic that you may drop it.
I mean, I'm still watching it, but only as time permits, kind of, because it is very generic, right? And it's not bad. It's the studio is here. I looked it up. Project Number Nine is the studio, and uh, they've done Rokubu, which is the little lolly basketball team one, right? And then they also did Is There Never a Girl Online, which was that one about gaming, uh, MMO, where the girl can't tell the difference between her husbando and the game and the real him, um, which is pretty entertaining. And then they've done a bunch of some mediocre stuff.
Looks like they do.
And actually, they're doing two isekais this season. They're doing the High School Prodigy one too.
Has anyone watched
So,
that one?
but the I attempted the first half and I couldn't take even a full episode. It was awful. But anyway, the animation's not bad. I mean, the character designs are cute. They're bright and bubbly. This is a complete Moe Blob show. So if you like cute girls doing cute things in a fantasy world, sure. But it's there's not a lot of substance to it because even in Japanese, there is a difference between mean and median, right? And that's the whole joke about this for someone like me. It's annoying because average, you know, is not what they're talking about. Because most living creatures in that world would not have any magical powers or strength. Whatever. I won't get into it. Just look it up, kids. The difference between mean and median. All right. That's the entire joke. So I'm like, okay, whatever. It's mostly comedic, light comedic entertainment to try to watch this girl who doesn't want to be above average being completely above average and trying to hide the fact that she's above average and making all kinds of dumb mistakes like, oh, if my party members get stronger, then I won't stand out as much. But consequently, she's training all of them to be super above average. So of course they're gonna stand out. Stuff like that
So,
in a
you
light kind of way, but it's not deep.
yeah. So it's definitely cute girls doing cute things. Cause like I'll admit, whenever she's talking to whatever her little creature is, and she's trying to
Nano.
doing these little dances, I'm like, that's cute. But yeah, I don't know if where this show is gonna go, and that's the hard part with me wanting to follow it or not. Cause yeah, they're going to become adventurers. They're going to create their own little guild, but I don't know where this story's trying to head to. So it's I don't know. Without a clear goal, I don't think I can keep on watching this. I may give it one more episode to see if it's gonna, maybe they try to be the strongest, or maybe they have some kind of evil lord, demon lord
I'm
out there. But
I'm sure
there's
there is. I mean,
Hmm.
there's the thing started out as a web novel that turned into a light novel when the author got picked up, and then there's a manga and now there's an anime. So I think it's fairly typical, right? And um, yeah, I don't know where it's going, but I'm assuming at some point there'll be like, a big bad protagonist threat, which will be easily overcome as Mile tries to pretend to not be overpowered and comedic shenanigans ensue.
hmm
It's very fun.
Well,
So let's go to the next title, which I don't even know where the show is. I didn't even
Oh,
notice
that
it.
one's up by Kono Yusha K.
What? I was talking about Rifle is Beautiful.
I thought you were talking about the other isekai show.
Oh no! What other isekai? The one no one's watching?
Yeah, that one. I also dropped it after the first one
Yeah,
episode because
I've read some of the manga, and I didn't know if I would want to watch it as an anime. It's just like there's 9 high schoolers or something like that that are all prodigies within the world that gets transferred into another world,
that's nine
that
too
one.
many.
and then they're all like use their skills or abilities, which some of them are dumb. Like one of them is like the greatest or the prodigy magician, and he does these outlandish things. I'm like, really, seriously, come on. So I don't know. That's why I didn't pick up the anime, but I don't even want to talk about it. You're God, Nisakai. You're the worst one this season. But I did want to hear about Rifle and Is Beautiful. What is this?
Chan.
I think. Go ahead, Big Vinny.
Okay, I'll take this down. It's another cute girls doing cute stuff, more blob, but it's about air rifle clubs, high school wise. They all gather into this high school, which had a tradition of having building a air rifles club, which just got disbanded because there's nobody taking up the club, and as the typical trope goes, they need the 4 members to restart the club, which they managed to do between the main character and her friends who had quite a bit of a history uh, doing the air rifle. And then luck would have it, one who just got beat up by the main character at the junior high school competition ended up joining the same school. So she ended up joining, and there's this dark horse character they didn't even realize. And there's another character who also played at the national level. They all happens to be congregating to the same school, so they just restart the class. Uh, there's really not much substance, otherwise just being a somewhat mildly educational about what the air rifle is, about how it's using the laser beam based shooting, because you don't really want to use actual bullets to practice in a school because there's just so much ramification and all the bad things could happen. But that beam rifle thing kind of takes me back to the episode about the Sword Art Online, about how the beam rifle thing is a joke. But that's kind of stepping aside. And one of the character looks very much like a 5/6 scale of Asuka from the Evangelion, with the red head, and she's a half Japanese and half Europeans, and she's got the whole tsundere kind of characteristic too. But overall, it's somewhat educational, somewhat entertaining. You go to the you watch the show to watch all those cute girls acting all cutesy, really.
Yeah. So, this is based clearly on a like a 4 panel manga because of the way the anime flows. And I was kind of surprised once I learned that this would actually be full episodes. I feel like this should have been a short, but whatever. They managed to cobble together enough to make a full TV episode. Um, and I did appreciate the fact that they formed the club right away instead of like struggling for 2 or 3 episodes and running around and all that. They're like, nope, we got our members and we've reformed. Right. And yeah, they talk about the air rifle thing, which is semi-educational. And mainly, my interest was because this is done by Studio 3 Hertz, which is a relatively new studio. By new, I mean they started around 2013, 2014. And I really enjoyed their first one, which was called Celestial Method. Um, so since then, I think they're most famous for Dimension W, which had some issues, but definitely had some cool animation moments.
They did
And
flip floppers,
they
right?
and they did Princess Principal, which again the animation was good. The story left a little bit of a problem there at the end, but this one, is by them. It's clearly animation-wise not very intensive. There's not a lot of movement. There's not a lot of action. It's done competently. Um, so again, if you're into cute girls doing cute things, this could be the show for you. But it's not something I would recommend to everyone because it's just a little bit too understated.
Hmm.
It's like a typical isekai version of a cute girl doing cute things kind of thing. It's not better or worse, really.
All right. Well, let's let's go to the next title, which actually I kind of forgot about this. Should have brought it up when we were talking about Fate Grand Order, which is Azura Lane, which is another phone game adaptation into an anime. So,
It looks like you're actually watching all of it.
oh, yeah, dude, I was watching or I was playing Azura Lane before it became global because of Kizuna Ai. She's got a YouTube channel where she
Wow.
introduces games, and one of the games she was playing was Azura Lane. And I was like, "Oh, that's so awesome, Kizuna Ai! You're so cool! I gotta play." So I found the JP version of it and started playing it, and then of course I couldn't understand any of it, so I couldn't progress that far. But then it finally became global, and I, jumped right on the bandwagon and started playing and collecting as much as I can. And eventually it fell off, and I just no longer played anymore. But I re-downloaded it because of the show, and I may start playing it again. But it just took a lot of my time, which I didn't have a lot of already. So that's why it was hard to play at the first place. But this is it's just so much fun for me because I did play. So a lot of these characters I'm seeing, I'm like, yes, that one's great. Cool, this is awesome. Actually, at the end of episode 2, when they showed the figure or the silhouette of Balfest, I was like, oh my god, yes! I was so excited because that's, that was my waifu in the game. You can actually, give them rings and do a pledge or a marriage vow kind of a thing. They have
God.
they have a whole animation where her hand's like this, and you move the ring up, and it goes onto their finger, and you've done your pledge. So she was my very first one, and I was like, this is
Can you
my
put in
waifu.
the wrong finger?
No, you can't. But I'm like, this is my waifu. This is my waifu. She's out there. Yes, I'm so happy. and it's got the two sides to the ships, which also feeds into the game with the guilds. There's the Azure Lane guild, and then of course whatever the other guild was, I can't remember. But yeah, just it's showing all these characters. And oh my god, episode 2 is just full of fan service, and but the battles they have are very entertaining, look really nice and very fun. I don't know about the story though, because I never paid attention to the story in the game. I was like, I was just skipping through, going through the battles, collecting what I can. So, I mean, I've gotten pretty far, and they do have that memories thing. So maybe I can go back and just start read what everything really happening in that game. But
To hell with the story. I'm here for the wives.
that's what I was.
Ship waifus.
That's what I was playing this game
Oh,
for.
that's great.
Now the elephant in the room is how does it compare to Kantai Collection, both the game and the animation?
So I'll have to say, Contact Collection had a cool sorte where they would launch off and all those things would come out and change and equip to them. That was just really cool how they did that. While in this show, you know, their ships just turn into these prisms and then the gear appears on their back. But then that's another weird thing about Azure Lane is that they're not people. They're actually ships that have a humanoid form, they say.
Huh.
So it's not people that are reborn with the ships or, you know, soul or whatever you call it. They're actually the ships being in a human form. So they did mention that, which is, I think, a little bit different from Contact Collection. I'm not too sure. I can't remember too much about that story either. But it's they're introducing so many characters, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I have that one. I used to have that one. Oh, I remember that character. I know who that is. So it's been pretty fun just pointing them all out. I will have to say though, Funimation is doing a whole lot better job subtitling this one rather than having them bounce all over the place whenever they introduce a ship name and they give the subtitles. It's separate from the text for when they're talking, so it's not so bad, unlike some other shows they've done. But yeah, I'm just enjoying it a lot. So you guys just dipped into it? Is that it, or just one episode, or?
Yeah, I just watched the first episode just to see how it looks like. There's no way I cannot get it. There's no way I can get into that game. I just don't have time to squeeze in any more games as is. I'm tapped out. But I was just curious about it since it seemed to run parallel with the Kantai Collection, both the themes and the settings and all the ship girls and what have you. I still can't get over how Takao in Azure Lane has the cat ear kind of thing, because I'm just used to seeing how Takao looks like in Kantai Collection. That
Oh.
always kind of shakes me.
Yeah, and let's not forget Arpeggio of Blue Steel too.
Ah,
All the way back. It wasn't a game, I don't think, but you know, Ship Girls. So yeah, I watched the first. It was clearly made for fans because of all the fan service, and I don't mean like the typical fan service. I just mean, you know, having your waifu show up on screen and being voiced by the original character voices, right? I wasn't that impressed with the first episode. There was a lot of panning still shots of when they were introducing all the ship girls during the big battle that happens, and it they did do some interesting elements when they were animated. It was not like Kantai Collection anime where they were going out onto the ocean and it looked like they were on a skating rink where there was no bumps, right? The couple of the there were actually ups and downs and left and rights. So the ship girls were on, what you would expect to be a rolling ocean. So I did appreciate that, but overall, it it just wasn't for me, and I don't have time. There's so many other shows I need to catch up on, including shows from last season. So it was a drop for me.
This show has a tag of historical, so we'll be learning a lot about history within this show.
It's about as historical as Isekai series.
My God, really?
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just yeah, it's definitely for people who play the game. Obviously, I was having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, just now that Belfast is in there, I'm definitely going to keep on watching. I gotta support my wife, so.
Right.
Um,
I think Strike Witches might be more historical than this series, but I digress.
but the thing is, with Kantai Collection and this show, there are some things that are slightly different that and some things that I do question a lot. Like in the Kantai Collection and in this show, they shoot projectiles and they become planes, right? The arrows. I think that happened in both shows, right?
Yeah, yeah. The carriers like Akagi and Kaga were archers, right?
Yeah, and then they would shoot arrows and they would come planes. Now, in this show, some of them do that as well, but there's some aircraft carriers that, on the Japanese side at least, they have swords. And the weird thing they did was in one of the shows that she put her sword to the launch pad, and then when the planes flew, it went into her sword and charged up her sword, which was way different because I was wondering how that was going to work. And so they have some different elements, but one of the weird things in this show that I don't understand is that they have these big birds, these yellow pigeons that are going out, and like during the first battle, after the first battle, they're going out and fishing and picking up the people from the water to bring them to land to get them repaired. And I'm like, they haven't explained what they are or why they're there. Like, I understand it's the Yolstar mascot because that's the company who's making the game, but I don't get what they're doing in that world. That's the biggest mystery to me. But other than that, it's very fun for me.
Maybe it was a corporate directive to promote themselves.
Though this show did inspire me to want to make some more Kiria, so I'm going to get into that. I'm going to make some Kiria from characters in the show. Also, are there any other titles you guys want to talk about? I think we got through a lot of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only isekai we don't talk about, I think, was この勇者が俺強えくせに慎重すぎる, also known as Shincho Yusha.
What?
Which I watched the first episode and dropped immediately because it was just boring to me.
Which one?
That was not even on my radar.
Yeah, so I mean, in this world, like you have a setting where all the gods of all the different worlds, spheres, whatever you want to call them, get together, and they're like, assigning projects, right? And this one blonde ditzy goddess who is an aqua wannabe from right, basically. Yeah, the I forget even what her name is. The goddess gets this really hard assignment, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is horrible! I just wanted the easiest thing that I could coast and not do anything." So she has to go and actually do some research. She's like, "How am I going to solve this problem?" No, hey, this hero looks really awesome. He's like maxed out on stats and blah blah blah. So I'm gonna summon him without reading the fine print. Summons him, right, and explains the situation. You gotta go fight the demon blah king blah blah blah, and then the hero's like, "Okay, I got it." And she's like, "Great, let's go." He's like, "I'm gonna do push-ups." He starts like working out, It's like, I gotta be totally prepared for this. And he's basically, it's just this one trope that he is overly cautious. So he trains like crazy. He buys an armor and buys a spare armor, and then he buys another armor for that spare in case it gets lost. And that kind of stupid thing. And it's just that over and over.
Yeah.
And then like he gets to that world, finally gets to the world, and he fights a slime and uses like his ultimate technique on the slime, and the slime is completely obliterated. There's a crater, and then he fires it off again just in case that he might be alive or he might have missed, right? And you're like, oh, I get it, he's overly cautious. And of course those explosions bring the attention of one of the Demon King's general, and he's like, oh, whoops, she's clearly more powerful than I. And while the Demon King's general is like spouting off villain monologue, he runs. That part I did laugh because he just outright runs away because he knows at this point in time this would not be a good encounter. But other than that, it's just this over, it's just one thing over and over again. He's overly cautious. Okay, I get it. So that was it. Some people are
Sounds like
really
me and my
enjoying it.
making.
Yeah, some people are really enjoying it apparently, but I was done with it.
Yeah, I actually surprisingly watched 3 episodes of it, and
You did?
yeah, I remember reading the manga too, a little bit of it, and I don't know why I watched it. I already knew what I was expecting, but just I don't know. It's not good. It's not a good show for me.
You know what is good? So the only other show I want to mention is Oresuki.
Oh,
俺を好きなのはお前だけかよ.
okay,
So
give me a second.
this
Let
is
me get
a yeah, it's a comedy, and it's I was not expecting much. I just happened upon this. I'm like, it's set in high school, which I'm really tired of. But the interesting twist is, there's this young man, right? Joro is his nickname. It comes from his cutting off certain kanji in his family name. It becomes Joro, which means it's a water spout can. And then the girls he's interested in are named, have nicknames that go around flowers. So in the first episode, you find this out right away. Joro has a childhood friend. Her himawari means sunflower, and so himawari is like, Joro, there's something really important I want to talk to you about, right? He's like, oh, could be a confession. He's also part of the student council, and the student council president, of course, is, his senpai is named after Cosmos, the flower. And she's like, oh, there's something I want to tell you about. And throughout this like montage in the first half, you kind of start noticing, in the background, there's the same looking girl that shows up like a mob character, right? But she's in several different scenes. I'm like, oh, that's a little weird. Wait, is that someone that's going to be important? And yes, it is. But, so the girls, they each have like a moment with him, and they're like, I'm in love with your best friend, Sanchan. Right? And so that's a twist. He's like, what? And he has these funny English dialogue moments. It's like, why? And turns out both girls are asking him to help them, hook up with his best friend, Sanchan. And he's like, oh, God, that's not what I thought was going to happen. And then later that night, you kind of get to see that this has all been an act for him. He's kind of two-faced, double-faced about the whole thing. He was hoping to, he was being the perfect, childhood friend, so he might have a chance with the himawari. He was being the perfect assistant to the student council president, so he might have a chance with him. And both of that has now gone. But then he says, wait a minute, there's only one Sanchan. One of them is going to lose. So I just need to help them both and hook up with a loser, which you're not quite expecting. You're like, wow, he's kind of a dick. And that's kind of how the comedy starts, you know. And I would I would watch. I've watched all 3 episodes. I think there's a fourth one out now. The first 3 episodes wraps up pretty nicely, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting this point to be like till I don't know episode 6. I'm not sure where it's going, but you have a protagonist that's not exactly your everyday average rom-com protagonist. He's a little bit, dickish, right? And yeah, all the girls also have deep flaws, and the comedy is quite good. So I would highly recommend it to people. At least watch the first 3 episodes and what you think. I have no idea where it's going after that, but it the first 3 is gold, comedy gold. That's it.
I remember reading some of the manga for this, so that's why I didn't watch it, because I kind of already knew what was going to happen, and even in the manga, I kind of stopped reading after a while because I don't know, I just didn't know what to expect. But seeing that picture you posted earlier, I'm like, wait, what's going to happen now? Because I thought that was going to be the whole show.
That's what I thought too, but apparently not. So I haven't read the manga or read the light novel it's based on. It's just very interesting. I picked it up mainly because I realized the art looked kind of familiar, and it's because in the light novel the artwork was done by Buriki. Buriki also did the artwork for Bokutomo, the show about I don't have a lot of friends, where they have the friendship club. Yeah, I think that's.
Haganai.
I forget what the club name is, but
you.
Yeah, so it's the same artist, and so the character is based off of that. Whoever did the adaptation, it ends up being a similar style. That's why I was at first interested in it, and then I watched it, and like, this first episode is hilarious.
Wasn't it the Neighbors Club?
The Neighbors Club, Linjinbu. So that's why I watched it and ended up staying for the comedy.
All right.
I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 9 episodes. So there's that. But at least the first 3 episodes is nicely wrapped up. It should have been like an OVA series almost. But definitely, if you're into comedy, if you're into rom-com, if you're into kind of quirky characters, very quirky characters, I recommend it.
All right. How about this will be our last title, and I just want to see what you guys think about it, because you guys have it marked a little bit, or at least Albert, which is Assassin's Pride.
Assassin's Pride. Oh, yeah. Vinny, you haven't watched this yet, right?
No, not yet. But you can go ahead and.
The clothing design bugs me. That's the only thing I got with it. I just keep on seeing eyes looking at me. Like some kind of cat eyes or something weird.
I don't know. I watched the first episode. I mean, I thought this might have. Why did I watch this anyway? I had a mistaken belief that this was an isekai. So I watched the first episode, and it's not that interesting to me. It's kind of got a weird aesthetic on the art and the characters, and then the backstory of, or I guess the setting of the world, I'm not quite getting, and it wasn't that interesting to me either. And then the whole story about the main character being sent in to tutor this girl who has, apparently the nobles in this world have the ability to manifest, I forget, they're called mana or magic, but this girl despite being of noble family, does not appear to have any, and she's way past showing any ability, and therefore it might be that she might not be of noble blood, and therefore the main character is tasked with either finding out and tutoring her or eliminating her because she's clearly not actually noble. Like, what? That makes that makes no sense. But whatever. And I just found the characters uninteresting, the setting to be uninteresting. The animation has this weird in between CG, 2D, 3D effect almost. Um, the fight choreography was kind of, I guess it was okay, but not a whole lot happens. And yeah, I just did not really connect with it at all.
So, um, for this show is another one that I've read as a manga, part of it at least. It's still being translated, and it's not that far into the story. Um, I believe it explains a little bit more on like who they are, what's going on, a little bit better within the manga. So that might help if you want to learn a little bit more about what's going on, because it shows more or less the life of the boy or the man and how he
Huh?
grew up. He was an assassin, and that's his job. He's just an assassin. He's not even a tutor, and his whole job was to see if she had mana. If not, he was to kill her. He was actually not even tasked to tutor her, but for
Okay.
some odd reason, he found something within her, like her struggling, kind of reminded him of himself or something like that. So that's why he decided to go ahead and try to help her, and um, decides to bet his life on it, because if they ever find out that he's doing this, they'll go and probably kill him and her, because he's going against um, his mission. So, um, like I said, it gives a little more in the manga of what he's doing, why he's trying to do it, and what's going on with the girl. Because there's a lot more stuff going on with the girl than is in the anime, and especially kind of explains more about the what she's supposed to be. Because like she's supposed to be a paladin because of her family and her job setting, but because of him, she's now no longer a paladin. She's an assassin. But they have to keep that hidden. They can't let anyone know that her class is an assassin now. And
Okay.
it's really strange and going, but we'll see how the anime goes. I'm going to probably watch a little bit more because it is somewhat entertaining to me. I like darker shows. So, although this is not dark, it's just the tone's a little more dreary than the others. So, but I did think the world was kind of interesting how they showed it in chandelier form. But I'm like, isn't that like really bad if something happened?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Like, I know they had an exposition in there. I just wasn't paying attention because it was so uninteresting.
Yeah,
The world is like blah blah blah, and all these cities are only connected with paths of light because the darkness is overwhelming. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
whatever.
So I didn't understand any of that either. I'm like, I don't even remember that in the manga. I'm gonna have to go back and reread it. It's not that far, so let's see if it does explain that a little more, or if it explains it at all, because I don't remember it. But yeah, like I said, the only thing that really bugs me in this show is their dresses, the girls' dresses, and I just keep on seeing a face looking at me because of how her chest is, and it has a slit in the middle, so it looks like this eye, and it's just, I don't know. Every time I see it, I just
I
keep on
took
seeing it as cat eye.
yeah, I glanced at that episode, first episode, and you're right. It looks like a chest is staring at you, in not usual way.
Yeah, just it's really weird. But a lot of the characters are very petite in that show too, so not a lot of plot.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's entertaining to me at least. for right now. I'm going to see how it goes.
Okay.
It does seem like there'll be some kind of tragedy stuff going on, and I love tragedy in anime, so I can't wait for that to happen. But,
I don't know. Sounds like they're treating the girl like a carton of milk that's gone beyond the expiration date or something.
Oh man, there's a lot of hazing. There's a lot of, bullying and calling. Oh man, it's just terrible. But yeah.
Terrible.
But I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget next month Konosuba the movie.
Yay!
I think
2 weeks.
I think what was it? This week on Thursday they had One Piece movie out in theaters. That just happened. I didn't watch it, but
What?
a One Piece movie came out.
Oh,
A lot of my friends were
not
going.
watching.
A lot of my friends went out and watched it, and they're like, "Are you watching?" I'm like, "No, I can wait.
Good pick.
I'll wait until
Series is too long.
I still have 300 episodes to catch up, so I can wait." But yeah, Konosuba the movie. I'm definitely going to catch that.
Did you already buy tickets?
I have not.
You
I did.
probably should.
Uh,
Because yeah, I found out like a couple days after it went on sale, and the showing that I wanted to go to was quickly filling up.
okay, I'll have to look into that.
Quite popular. Yeah, you should.
The theater as I go
It's-
to always have seats. There's it's usually not filled. So
Okay.
Is it another 5-hour drive for you?
no, it's gonna be here in town. So
Oh, good.
I'm lucky.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
like when I went to go see Premiere, Premiere was, I think, sold out for that show that I went to.
oh,
That was very
it's-
popular at my place too.
Yeah,
the only
I mean,
only Bunny Senpai was the one that I had to go to the second showing because there weren't any seats. But that was because this theater was assigned seating, too.
I go to a assigned seat place, which is
So-
kind of nice because you get to pick your seat. But
Yeah, here they don't do that yet for this theater at least.
and then I think in January, Weathering for You, January 17th, I want to say, Weathering for You, the Makoto Shinkai movie, will be showing. So come December, get your tickets.
That one I'm gonna try to fight my way through to get the sitting spot at the convention this in 3 weeks. If not, I'll just buy the ticket, but I want to see it sooner.
Nice. Which convention is that, Vinny?
That's Anime NYC.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, they draw a bunch of Northeast premieres and North American premieres and what have you, and that was one of the one that's listed. So problem is that holding place is only good for 2,000 sitting, and they're expecting 40,000 strong. So it's gotta be mad dash to the front line. I'm thinking I'll
Yeah.
probably have to show up like a 6 or 7 in the morning, just stand outside waiting for the line to move on or what have you.
Wow.
Actually,
Okay.
Albert, weren't you into the Chihaya Fuda show?
No, I have not watched any of the seasons.
Chihaya Fuda. I wonder who was
I
that
watched
was
the-
into that.
I watched the first 2 seasons. Actually, I didn't expect the 3rd season to show up at all, so I'm gonna watch a little later.
You could fill us in on the end of the season then.
It's a series about playing the card game. What was that? The Karuta card?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was done by Madhouse, so I know the animation quality is always that strong point. It's about this girl who was, who goes to, he just gets into the Karuta club and, holds competitions and the rivalry kind of thing. It's story-wise, it's a pretty prototypical club slash competition genre, but second season ended so long ago, I completely forgot about it until they made an announcement the 3rd season is coming. I was like, 3rd season? It's like, wait a minute, is there even a demand for this series anymore? Because when the first two season came about, there's a lot of merchandise of character cards was sold that I remember, but they kind of died down after a while.
I think it was listed as like one of the most anticipated anime like in Japan. So I guess there is a demand for it.
I
So
mean, it has a lot of followings among the female viewers. I'm guessing Jessica is probably the target audience for this series because it does have a very strong female characters. So it kind of tilted towards that. But I find that to be somewhat of a gender neutral for me to actually enjoy it. So it's not like too far into that whole Joshi type either.
I mean, I think it's kind of modeled after more of a sports club, like a sports
Yeah.
anime.
It's like Prince of Tennis.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's your flavor of the week, the new challenger of the week kind of thing. That's in the middle part of the first season and second season, because they're kind of she's moving up in the ranks, going to like local competitions and what have you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's one of those things. If I ever catch up with all my backlog, then I might pick it up. But there's a lot more on my backlog than I'm comfortable with right now to tackle on 3 seasons worth of stuff. So
I'm going to post a question on Discord, our Discord for Anime Talk OreAni. I've been seeing a lot more different titles coming up on Netflix, and I was wondering if we should do like a Netflix special where we just talk about titles that are on Netflix. So we'll
sure,
have to
yeah,
see.
post and we can see what the interest is like.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to post that. I'm gonna at least try to collect the titles so we know what are out there and see if we're interested. Maybe we'll just pick like a few of them and just have everyone see if they can just binge watch it one week and we can have a chat or something. But we'll figure that
We
out.
get to play about Carol on Tuesday.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But thank you all for watching, and hopefully you guys can join us at the end of the season. And
It's good.
Everyone have fun watching anime.
Thank you. You too.
Yan
Bye.
Pasu, or wait, no.
Yeah.
Bye B. That was it. That's it. Bye B.
Bye.